Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs. Good to be here with you on 2/4 I'm just dialing in here. I'm going to see if I can get some traffic here this afternoon. Good to be here with you on a beautiful Tuesday. More Heart Than Talent was the original title. Now it is the Golden Mastermind Podcast. So good to be here with you. I learned this skill. I'm going to type it in here and see if it gets any traffic. Good to be here with you. Breathe, release, and let go. Just going to let the Facebook Live populate. Let's see if that gets me any traffic. There we go. Sarah, good to see you this afternoon. All right, I'm in the saddle here. And today's GMS Facebook Live is Programming Your Subconscious Mind. So good to be here with you on a beautiful 2/4 Tuesday. So your subconscious mind does what is familiar. Joseph Murphy wrote the brilliant book, Your Subconscious Mind, in 1962. If you do not have that book, I highly recommend that you purchase it and own it and read it. It is a very, very good book. Joseph Murphy, Programming Your Subconscious Mind. So the subconscious is the component of your mind that typically is unconscious. So then you will continue to recreate situations over and over from your subconscious. And so in the last trimester of your mother's pregnancy, depending on what's going on in her world, that can affect your world. That's the last trimester. Then up here is your prefrontal cortex, and your prefrontal cortex is not developed until you are 7 or 8 years old. And by the time you're 7 or 8 years old, a lot has already happened to you. And so many people will not remember their childhood, and they'll say, my childhood was a blur. I don't remember my childhood. I had a great childhood. Or they will make comments related to what they experienced in their childhood, and oftentimes not remembering it. And then at times they'll say to me, well, I think my grandfather might have, or they'll come up with something that they are unclear of because that prefrontal cortex is not developed, and that is memory. And so this is also your hippocampus. And this is short, long-term memory. Your amygdala is in here, and your amygdala has what's called a reticular activating system. And that system searches for a familiar feeling. And if you're living the truth, then it will seek the truth. But if you're living in denial, then it will continue to find that which is familiar. And this is why so many people stuff their feelings, end up in debt, continually relapse, or stay addicted to the same set of feelings and emotions. And they're 40 years old, 50 years old, overweight, overwhelmed, recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. It's an epidemic. It's the world. It's not just you. It's what most people do. They tiptoe quietly through life, arrive at their grave safely. They stay in the same job, the same relationships. They don't get honest. And most importantly, they don't create boundaries with their family and other people in their circle of influence. And so they stay in a very high level of codependency. And this is all part of the unconscious, subconscious that recreates the same situation to fulfill the same set of circumstances and feelings. And then I point this out at one of my 2.5-day events, my 2-day event called Millionaire Blueprint. And on Saturday, I spend 2 hours in the morning, 9 to 11, on what is called the payoff. And I put it in parentheses, I write out the payoff, and it goes over most of the people's heads. Even though they're my coaching clients, and I've covered it before, and they're sitting in there, they sit in there and they process, they think, and they analyze. And so if this is you, you're a thinker, analyzer, justifier, validator, addicted excuse creator, you're codependent, you enable and over-obligate and do more for others yourself, put yourself last, stuff your feelings. This is most of the world. This is why you can't build a business. This is why you have challenges getting off the mat. This is why you underachieve, under-earn, because the body holds on to sexual, physical, emotional, generational trauma, and then trauma-based mind control, which is used right in front of you to confuse you. Black, white, right, wrong, good, bad, win-lose dichotomy, force, counterforce that most people live in. So most people just continue to live in the subconscious, recreate the same situation. Many people never move from their small town or their city they live in. They congregate with their same homies, their relatives in that same circle of influence, recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. So if you grew up with a narcissist, if you grew up with an alcoholic, if you grew up with trauma in your household, or if you grew up and you were highly criticized by parents, brothers, sisters, and you hear it over and over again, well, that becomes your subconscious, because that becomes what I know, who I am, what I do, who I'm being. So if you grow up feeling not good enough, and you haven't changed that signal to noise ratio, and you continue to live in the same set of circumstances and same feelings, then you will not change. Change requires the ability to self-observe. It requires the ability to look at a situation for what it is, be rigorously honest with yourself, which that takes most of the planet out of it. And if you're a sensitive, defensive, validator, justifier, and explainer, you will not break through. You will continue to do the same situation, fulfill the same set of circumstances. If your mouth moves and you say that this always happens to me, it will. That means there's self-fulfilling prophecy, which is the subconscious. You'll just keep recreating the same situations. Now, I was that person once upon a time, but I began to change the behavior at 31 years old with sobriety. Sobriety changed my life. I actually, instead of rebelling against the 12 steps of sobriety, I embraced it. I went to meetings every single day. I went to Al-Anon. I read the 12 steps and 12 traditions. My book is right back there. It's broken in the spine because I've used it so many times. I memorized the 12 steps. I started practicing them. I started going to chiropractors early in my sobriety. I went to quantum healers. I did foot reflexology. I learned muscle testing. I learned applied kinesiology. I went to multiple chiropractors. So I learned Gonseth method. I learned Nuka method of chiropractic. I learned bioenergetic synchronized technique. I learned multiple forms of chiropractic, quantum healing, Reiki, meditation, yoga, and detoxing, fasting, 9-day cleansing, fasting, eating smaller meals, eating less than I had been programmed by the Rockefeller Foundation, letting go of oral pharmaceuticals, doing heavy metal detoxing. I met Kevin Trudeau early in my sobriety, and he had a program, or he had a product back then called Sharks Don't Get Cancer. I was in Tom Big Al Schreider's team in a company called Nutrition for Life back in that era. And I was in Herbalife for a couple of years also. I learned a lot about cellular nutrition. So I spent a lot of my time in my early sobriety between 31 and 40 learning the skills that became the foundation for my ability to be in higher consciousness. I followed Frederick Lehrman. I listened to his audio cassette tapes back then called Prosperity Consciousness. I listened to Jim Rohn, and I read books all of the time. I began to program my conscious mind. As I began to learn to let go of my subconscious, that's the trauma I experienced from the last trimester of my mother's pregnancy through the first 18 years of my life that formed my addictions. I was an addict from 18 years old to 31 years old. For the first 18 years of my life, I repressed my feelings, stuffed them down in anger, rage, hate, resentment, frustration, disappointment, and resentment. And so my subconscious, I had a very quick trigger. I was in conflict a lot. And I found myself on the wrong side of the law many times in my 20s. This was my programming. I was programmed to believe I wasn't good enough. And I'm one of the many alcoholics that I've interviewed that their very first drink was a blackout. Now, I've never seen this medically, nor would I believe anything from the AMA, but I know in my own intuition and higher consciousness that if your first drink was a blackout, there's a high probability it's from the trauma, the rage that you experienced, And then blackout drinking becomes a way of life. That was me. I'm one of the many blackout drinkers who one's too many, 1,000's not enough. And then we drink so much that we don't know where we are. We forget where we are. Psychotic things can happen. Complete memory loss happens. And that's the person I became. So in the reinvention of self, I began to discipline myself to understand the subconscious, unconscious. I'm very fortunate. I came across Joseph Murphy's book in my early sobriety, Your Subconscious Mind, written in 1962. And then I also read Maxwell Maltz, Cybernetics, and a multitude of books throughout. I read James Mapes on quantum leaps. I voraciously read and listened to content, which then began the process of programming the person that I am today. That was the foundation of it. I was building network marketing businesses. I was not employable. I did not want a job. I wanted a business. And so those first 10 years while building businesses, I was simultaneously programming, not see, is over. Programming is now. Putting in a new set of programs, a new set of circuitry. Then fast forward to 2001, I met John Assaraf. That was my introduction to understanding the brain. That's where I first heard the term reticular activating system. That's where I first started to understand the limbic brain. I shared the stage with him at an event in Los Angeles, California. I shared the stage with Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was great for motivation and inspiration, but the men that had the most impact on my career were John Assaraf, Joe Dispenza, and Bruce Lipton, Dr. John DeMartini. I started to follow their content in the late 90s into the mid 2000s. And that's where I started to deeply understand repressed and suppressed feelings. I found David Hawkins in 2006, the book Power versus Force. The book Letting Go was written in 2012. Power Force was a mainstay of my recovery in writing and understanding that content. Once again, this is a programming of being present. That means in this process, you're teaching yourself to separate your feelings from the events that shape them, so you can be present. And in that you're changing the signal to noise ratio of not being good enough, of the automatic, autocratic, where you go into acute fight or flight and you find yourself in the same set of circuits, same set of feelings. Because neurons that wire together fire together. To be able to change your behavior, you have to have an interruption. And that interruption is your ability to self-observe. So that means that number one, you have to surrender. You have to surrender control. And letting go of control means letting go and letting God. And so in context, though, in the day-to-day action of letting go of control is that you're aware of why you do what you do. So that's in 12-step programs, that's surrender. Step 4 is moral inventory of self. That is rigorous honesty. This requires letting go of brooding, pouting, being sensitive, being defensive, cutting people off who are trying to assist you, letting go of being right, and most importantly, letting go of pride. If you have the book Letting Go, you should be reading chapter 9 in the dark with a candle, in the back seat of a car, wherever it is. You should be studying that chapter because it's pride and humility. So all of your sabotages will be your pride. Your breakthroughs will come from your humility. To be able to be humble, you have to bring yourself down here, look at your character defects, and when people go, well, how do I do that? It's not a how-do. It's a committed, energetic state of humility where you are humble enough to admit your character defects without criticizing yourself. You are humble enough to realize that I'm responsible for the people I attract. You're humble enough to realize that the sabotages you created are your responsibility. And as you become more responsible and begin to separate your feelings from the events and own your responsibility, your ability to respond, you are changing the wiring that will keep you creating the same situation over and over. Because neurons that wire together will fire together. So the term rewire is not applicable. You are wiring. So the emotions you're now installing into your program are love, joy, bliss, enlightenment. And then at the same time, you're learning to understand, be aware, be certain, trust. So trust is a major obstacle for most of the planet. And if you don't trust yourself, if you don't trust your intuition, which is your limbic brain and your vagus nerve and your gut, if you don't trust yourself, then you can't trust others. And this is why many people have challenges in attraction, in attracting to your reality the people you seek to attract. But if your mouth moves and you say how hard it is, how difficult it is, that none of those people are out there, you are right. And in that righteousness, that's your pride. That will separate you from being able to attract the people you're looking for, the people you deserve. I am very skilled at attraction. I believe it. And since I believe that, that's my truth. But your truth will be whatever your truth is. So whatever you speak into existence frequently, that will become your reality. So the universe will not reward you for your potential. The universe rewards you for your programming. Your potential is unrealized. When you begin to realize your potential, you're a contender. You're contending to be your best self. Anything other than that, you're just watching. And so if you just watch and procrastinate, you'll continue to tiptoe quietly through life, arrive at your grave safely. I mean, if you're a chronic debtor and consistently have no money, like most of society, that's your programming. That means that you're not good enough. That means you're not comfortable with yourself. That means you have an aversion to money. That means that you resent money, you resent people, and you live in this brood, pout, chip on your shoulder, pissed off all the time, and want someone else to blame, except you don't own your own responsibility. And this is when I coach people like this, they're not coachable. They set me up to disappoint them and then blame me for their own set of circumstances. Well, they go, how do I let go? I will systematically share with people the process of letting go, but it has to be actualized. It's not a myth. It's not a trick. It's a skill set. And if you're not skilled at letting go, the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them, you'll just keep recreating the same set of situations and the same circuitry to fulfill the same set of feelings. Breathe, release, and let go in a relaxed body. So the repressed feelings and the suppressed feelings are the subconscious. Repressed feelings are the ones that you bury alive. Suppressed feelings are the ones that you sabotage yourself over and over to fulfill the neurochemical craving of being an emotional addict. Everyone can change. It requires a commitment. To let go of your subconscious is to do your best to be your best, to access your memory that you tell yourself you don't have. Well, I don't remember. Well, of course you don't. That's your repressed feelings. However, you don't have to remember everything that ever happened to you, but just the basics. Get honest with yourself. If you continue to tell yourself you had a great childhood and your life's a wreck, well, I suggest you get honest with yourself and understand somewhere in that journey what happened to you that keeps you recreating the same situation over and over. And if you continue to protect your parents or your family or your political party, and you're not honest with yourself about the situation, until you are honest, you're in denial. When you're in denial, you will recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. Buy the book, Letting Go. If you have it, go to chapter 9 this afternoon or tonight. Definitely go through that chapter on pride. It is game-changing content. Game-changing. Be responsible. The ability to respond. So thank you, Wayne. Rigorous honesty is right. You require rigorous honesty to be honest with yourself without criticizing yourself. So you instead of self-medicating yourself in the same situation, when you do this, you can walk away from relationships that are unhealthy because you're honest with yourself. And instead of saying, I'm not sure if I can make it alone, that's the lie you hold on to continue to take the punishment, to fulfill your pride that keeps you doing the same thing over and over. I can't quit my job. Of course you could. You're not willing to, but you could quit it. Well, I can't hire you because I don't have any money. Well, you could still hire me. You don't have to have money. You have to be resourceful. If you're resourceful, you'll attract or create the money. If you're not resourceful, then you won't find it. So the people that go, I'm going to hire you in 30 to 90 days. This is what that means to me. That's a mouth that moves that has no commitment. That's what that means. And that's a good intention with a poor delivery. When you're commitment conscious, when you're committed, you're changing your programming. If you've been non-committal, irresponsible your whole life, when you become commitment conscious, You're changing that whole signal to noise ratio that you lived in most of your life. You're changing your whole identity. And instead of fearing commitment, you embrace it and you become commitment conscious rather than commitment phobic. If you are seeking the one-on-one insight that I could offer you, and you have the courage to reach out to me, I would be honored to be your coach. If you're an existing client and would like to find out more about my longer-term coaching packages, feel free to reach out to me. I would be honored to share those with you on a Breathe, Release, and Let Go Tuesday. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Honored to be here with you. And this content today, this is for you. You can be and do something with this. You don't have to continue to tiptoe quietly through life and silently suffer. It's not healthy. It's not who you are. It's not your best self. Breathe, release, and let go in a relaxed body.